Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. We're coming to you live today to bring you a preview of the world famous Darwin Festival here in Shrewsbury. And I do realise, by the way, I can see now that I've accidentally selected the You Suck YouTube channel we're streaming to now. So hi guys in America, if you're watching this, enjoy, sit down, relax. We've got something for you today. And I'm not going to do this today by myself. Of course, I've got one of my trusty biscuiteers with me, and today I'm bringing you is Jules. Jules, we'll try that again, shall we? Hey,
Hiya.
how are you?
Hiya. I'm fine. Yeah, you?
Yeah, good, yeah, really good. I'm
Got the
fine.
hat on. Sorry, I've been outside, so I'm starting to warm back up again.
It's a bit nippy out there. It's like I can't
Just
see
a
the
bit.
houses across the road.
Yeah, it's very cold.
Anyway, let's not stand to attention. We've got some friends from the Flaxmill, and introducing is Marianne and Penny from the Flaxmill in Shrewsbury. Hi guys, how are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you again, guys.
And
Yes,
you?
it's great. It was probably about a year ago you came on the show, but last
Exactly.
Darwin Festival. It would have been last Darwin Festival. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't speak to me unless it's about Darwin. That's fine. I don't hold it against you.
So we were just talking backstage about the pub and how we missed like sort of gathering, meeting people and stuff. And I was saying like even though I wasn't like a massive pub like goer, I'm kind of missing it now. We can't have it. You know, I want to be able to go for a pint with my friends and stuff. You know?
It would be nice. The dolphin calls.
The Dolphin. Oh, them guys.
That's our
are great.
local, isn't it? At the Flaxmill. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hang in there, guys. Hang in there.
Well, today we're here to talk about the Darwin Festival. This is our third year as a show helping out with the Darwin Festival. It was one of the things that kind of gave us purpose as a show from the very beginning, and I've really enjoyed it since. I remember very nervously standing up at a meeting, planning meeting years ago, and going, "I've got a podcast, and I'd like very much to be a part of your little thing that you've got going on here." And it's continued to be a part of what we do. So I'm very, very grateful that it exists.
Your elevator pitch technique is perfect. Has it improved since then? Your little
No.
thing. Oh, did you
Doesn't
get
need
results
to.
of that?
I peaked. I peaked. I kept it at that level. I was kind of like, I think I did say at one point, you may not have heard of a podcast, but you will very soon. I wasn't wrong.
Yes.
I wasn't wrong. There you go. Genius. Now, the Flaxmill, if for the people that are watching internationally, Marion, what is special about the Flaxmill, and what makes it such an important building to the world?
Yes, we're working on getting our story across, and America is not a bad place to start. The Flaxmill was built in 1797 as the first iron frame building in the world, and it's therefore seen as the ancestor to the skyscraper. It's not the first skyscraper, as sometimes people think, because it's simply not tall enough for that. But the technique that was developed in Shrewsbury locally, that made sure that the building was built as a fireproof building, because flat mills all over the country were quite readily going up in flames. And they thought, how can we best remedy that? And that's through creating an iron frame rather than working with wood. And so it proves, because it's still standing. And in next year, we'll be able to welcome people actually inside the building. So that means after 225 years, the building still exists, because it is such an important one in the development of architecture.
Yeah, it really. I mean, these are the stories I've learned, and from a building that was hardwared over years, of hard, intense industry. So how was it when you guys sort of picked it up and when you started working on it? What kind of state was it in compared to what it is now?
Oh, well, Penny was there from the start. The Friends have been involved for over 10 years now as the public engagement group of a partnership. And the people who saved it really was Historic England. Back when they were English Heritage, they bought it because they saw the importance of it. It is a Grade 1 listed building, which means that nationally there's very, very few buildings with that qualification. It means it is very special, and once it's gone, it's gone. So they bought it, they saved it. For years, people will remember seeing it pinned together with scaffolding, because it was, the roof had gone, and once the roof goes, slowly the building deteriorates. So you remember seeing that cap over it for years and years and years. So in English Heritage then split into Historic England, which is the government Quango advisory arm, and English Heritage as a charity. English Heritage looks after all those fantastic places that are now our lifelong, if we want to go into the country for our daily walk. And Historic England put its expertise to use. So together with us as public engagement arm and Shropshire Council, who saw the importance of it for the development of the northern area of Shrewsbury, they set together to put in a bid to the National Lottery Heritage Fund. That was finally successful in 2017. And from that point, they've done some amazing work bringing in heritage skills as well, so training people up on the job to look after and restore one of the set of buildings. Because, of course, the main mill and the kiln that we're talking about, that's part of the restoration now. There's more buildings there. There's still a cross mill, there's a warehouse, there's a dye house. Some of you may have been in that because we do use it for events. There's an apprentice house. So once this part opens, it's on to the next bit, and to see the entire site, which is quite rare in its existence, with the 7 different buildings still in existence there. It's on to the next phase. So Historic England has a job ahead of it still, but I mean, wouldn't you agree? It's looking amazing.
It really is. It really is.
This is your cue to put the photo up, Alex.
Yeah, sorry. I was actually looking for a photo. By the way, because it is looking pretty sexy. I gotta say, look at it. That, I mean, there was a big story about the crown at the top of the tower there. That you guys were raising money to get that fixed and put to its former glory, right? That was a big thing.
Yeah, well, it's Historic England's got a fantastic philanthropy and fundraising team, and several different organisations have been involved. So we've got the Marches, Local Enterprise Partnership, we've got the Andrew Lloyd Webber Foundation, but for the coronet, they went out to the public and said, this is your chance to give a little and be involved in the saving of the coronet, as we like to call it, not a crown, coronet. And you see there, right on top. So that entire thing was flat pack. It was disassembled. It was brought to Heritage Projects Limited in Harlescott. They completely restored it. And I mean, you need to go chat to those guys. They are amazing. We were lucky enough with our volunteers to go and see the work being done. And then, was it last year? Yeah, last year around this time, we had it down in the dye house for a little bit, so people were able to get very close up and personal to it. And then it was put back up. Of course, it wasn't part of the original flax mill. This part was added at the late 19th century when we celebrated Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. And there's several of them still around the country. There's one, I think, Penny, is that right, in Cleethorpes at the station there?
Oh, yes, and also in Scotland. I saw one when I was up in Dumfries and Galloway, in a town, the name of which I've forgotten, but there are several up there, because it was produced by, it was a firm called McFarlane's of Glasgow, who basically, they had a catalogue, and you could order this by mail order. And they obviously decided, and they did bandstands and things like that, all sorts of ornamental cast iron. This is in the 1880s and 1890s they were active, and and they obviously thought with Queen Victoria's Jubilee this would be a great line. So they must have produced this coronet and as a special for the Jubilee, and different places thought we'll have one of those. And here, William Jones, it was such a wonderful coincidence that he was building a hoist tower as part of his adaptation of the buildings to make it into a maltings. And this was the obvious and rather super thing to put on top of it.
Yeah, stands out, that's for sure. Even in that beautiful snowy picture that you've just put up, that looked really cool, actually, with the snow.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's a very recent one, actually. Our volunteer, Mike Ashton, many of you will know him. His Instagram accounts are fantastic. He does a googly eyes Instagram account as well, which always makes me laugh. But yeah, he took this photograph end of January, and it's just astonishing. And from the top, the view is just amazing. it's really, really good. So we're hoping that when we open spring next year, that we'll be able to take small groups up to the top. And it's still a bit of a discussion with the fire brigade, whether they're happy with what is being put in place. And then it will be small groups only, so it might be quite selective. But it's astonishing. Of course, you've got a very good view from the top floor as well, and that is available to commercial tenants. So Historic England has appointed Tyler Shaw Roberts as a commercial agent, and by the end of this year, the first commercial tenants may well be in it. And the top floor is absolutely astonishing. It's so light. It's such a fantastic place to work. So yeah, check it out.
So ladies, in terms of, obviously, because you say that, you'll be opening next year, has, obviously the pandemic slowed down the opening? Was there the potential that it would have been open this year, but everything has obviously come to a bit of a grinding halt? And
Oh yeah, that was Croft are amazing, and they've worked on the project from the first phase now the third phase. They won every competitive tender they put in for, and they love the building. There's still at this moment in time about 40 people working on it, but there was a delay, and that's the lottery is very, very appreciative of it, and it's still within budget, which is important. But to be honest, we were quite okay with pushing the opening a bit forward, because your heart goes out to fellow visitor attractions, and they've done so well, and they've been so adaptive. I mean, we did reopen for a bit last year in August and September.
October.
Yeah. And then, and people came back, and it was a lovely feeling, and our volunteers were very enthusiastic to be back. But when the infection rates went up, we thought it just wasn't worth it. We'd rather wait, and next spring, hopefully, we can also, we've got Mather and Co as designers on board. We can plan this in a sort of COVID secure way. That's the idea. We've been so lucky in a way that we were at this point, because imagine if we'd planned to be open like now. Yeah. It'd be tough. Yeah. It'd be so tough. So in the meantime, Penny's been busier than ever. Penny, do you want to indicate what you've been doing?
Oh, well, we've been, basically I started doing some research on the flax mill in about 2012, and had volunteers who transcribed the census returns for the period that the flax mill operated for the local area. And that gave us some names of the people who worked there and the community. And then from there, you can move out and look up other resources and build up your picture of the people. So we use that and develop that all the time to look at different themes that I've been exploring. And that's just the flax mill period. And then we've also more recently been looking at the period during the Second World War when the flax mill was used as a barracks, because the army set up a infantry training centre in Shrewsbury through the KSLI, and so a lot of the recruits needed training, all the conscripts that were called up, and so we're starting to look at that. And the Soldiers of Shropshire Museum have got the books in which these people were sort of signed onto the books and given army numbers, and we started working through those to get the names of those soldiers, and then we can some of whom would have actually sat in the Rat Hotel, which is what they fondly call the Maltings, and then we can trace what happened to them, and it's rather fascinating. You get to see that some of them, the different places some of them ended up serving, and the different. So that's another strand. But of course, we're also, going back to the people who worked at the flax mill. There's so many different aspects to it in terms of what you can look at once you delve into it. So, I've been looking at. I came across a link to, or several links to America in some recent research. One was a man who worked at the flax mill as a sort of travelling cashier and a travelling salesman. He was quite a senior middle management. And then he disappeared from the census returns. And eventually I discovered that he had migrated to Illinois in the US. And in fact, his son had gone there, and then before him, his eldest son, and then all the rest of his family went there. And then I found, then we made contact with one of his descendants, and then it turned out that his John Billington, who was the man who worked at the flax mill, his grandson, they were in Springfield, Illinois, which is where Abraham Lincoln was. And this was just at the time of the outbreak of the Civil War, and in fact, they were effectively next door neighbours to Abraham Lincoln. And this boy, who had been born in Shrewsbury, used to play handball with Abraham Lincoln, and run errands for him and all this sort of thing. Yeah, it's something. And then another link with America I discovered was the fact that the Mormons had started proselytizing in Shrewsbury, and it looks as though they were quite successful among the flax mill workers. And then I was able to trace quite a number of them who, because the Mormons were basically trying to recruit people to go over to set up Mormon settlements in Utah, quite a few of them did migrate. So again, you can follow them, from the flax mill in Shrewsbury out to Utah and Salt Lake City.
That's amazing. I mean, with obviously with your you're tracking the descendants. Have you come across descendants that are still here in Shrewsbury from right the way through, or have come back even maybe?
Oh, yeah. Well, certainly there are some who still have very strong links to Shrewsbury. Yes, I think so. And certainly we are making contact with various families. The Mansells spring to mind off the top of my head, and that's been fascinating because they came up recently, a couple of years ago. They had a family photo. Because in the 1880s, their forebear had opened a shop on Spring Gardens, shop, and had a house, and a photo taken with the flax mill behind it. And it turned out this was the only photograph we have of the flax mill before it got converted to a maltings, before the windows were blocked up. So many of the windows were blocked up. And in the background also of this picture is the massive chimney from the boiler houses that that powered the steam engine, that powered steam engines that powered the mill. So again, a fantastic find. And that Mansell family had connections with the flax mill before, in previous generations, and with the, people they married and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and the joy is that their descendant, now Susanna, hi Susanna, if you're watching, is now a volunteer with us. And she told us the story of her family's connection. And it was one of the most moving stories I think we heard. And it really brought it together, because Penny and other of our volunteers have been doing sterling work doing this documentary research, but to then hear it from somebody who's directly connected to it, and see the family photos from, and that's my dad on his tricycle, and look in the background there's the mill again. It makes you realise that the building only exists because of the community around it. So what we had been doing before was, for instance, and Penny is one of the tour guides. Penny is our trustee and volunteer. We've got about 50 volunteers, but I think Penny works the hardest of them all at the moment, definitely. Penny, for instance, and Pete, one of our other volunteers, have been doing walks through Castlefield and Ditherington to show people how the area developed around the flax mill almost. And it was because of the flax mill that people started living, and then the railways came in and many people there became railway workers. But that entire area of development, you need housing around you. You need your workforce nearby. So that's been fantastic. What we've also done during lockdown is, and Penny has been doing quite a few of them, is offering our volunteers training talks. So we adopted Zoom, I think in April last year. Where would we be without Zoom? Sorry, StreamYard. I'm sure StreamYard's
we love you too, StreamYard.
But it's meant, in fact, that we were able to do 2 weekly talks, training talks, and Penny did many of them. We had people from outside as well. We've had Historic England give talks. We are about to have one from a professor in Cambridge of just people talking about the mill and creating a sort of video library of learning, of training talks for us, so that the volunteers now have been able to see it live, do Q&As. The volunteers who we hope to recruit to be able to open the mill will be able to go through them and pick it up, because not everybody wants to read this, although it's fantastic. Some people learn better by listening and hearing.
Yes.
So that's been actually something that we hadn't planned, but it's been so positive. It's been so fun to do. And then, as Penny said, we've had many people transcribing oral histories, historic newspapers. Diana just sent me a few fantastic transcribed newspapers again. So we've been able to keep people involved, although we dearly like to be open. And then, and this links nicely to the Darwin Festival, which I know you want to come back to, is we've been doing online talks for groups. So I think Penny's been talking to the Art Society in Shrewsbury and the Wrekin. About 200 people signed up for that. We've given a talk to Belper, which is a mill in Derbyshire, which has got connections via Strat. For that, you need to listen to Penny's talk for the Darwin Festival. And we even have, but our emails keep going into spam. We've even got interest from the Museum for Industrial History in Bethlehem in America.
Wow.
See,
that's the link.
World domination. It starts via online talks, and it wasn't something that we planned to do, but it's been absolutely really amazing. Yeah. Something positive from Corona, people. Something positive.
Now, you guys love to you love to solve a mystery. Obviously, there's been many stories that have come out of the flax mill. We spoke about it last year, Marianne, and in fact, it was around the time when you found that pit in the floor. That you're like, well, what's this? You're constantly unearthing all these nice little breadcrumbs to history. What's that like for you, Penny? When you find something new to go and research and look at?
Yeah, it's really addictive, and you suddenly find you've spent 2 hours beavering away trying to find out more about this particular family and calling them up, because there's things like the once we had some names to search for, we could use the Shropshire Parish registers, which were available online via My Past. So that really enables you to flesh out a bit more about the lives of these people who are otherwise pretty much undocumented. You suddenly see the links or think, oh yes, I see now that why that happened, because they knew so and so, or they married so and so, and that's what must have happened. So yes, it is fascinating to get that, and then you read a bit more and you find a bit more about a different aspect, like Disraeli. I mean, I didn't even I knew vaguely that Disraeli had been an MP for Shrewsbury, only for a couple of years. Then you find out that he did actually make some pretty dismissive remarks about the flax mill workers. It's all tied up with the politics of the time. But then you get interested in the underlying things like the repeal of the Corn Laws and all this sort of thing, and you go off in another direction, and so it goes on. There's a whole range of resources that you can try and use. I'm doing a lot in Shropshire archives and things that you wouldn't think of, but they do feed in. For example, there's these records. The parish used to collect the church rate, which were every year which was basically A, to pay for the church, but B, to pay for the poor law at the time. We had those from 1799 up until the 1830s. So they're going around every year, and every householder, how much they're collecting from them. So that enables you to go back right to the early 1800s, whereas the census only gives you from 1841. So then you can flesh that out. And in the 1830s, they do actually record the occupations. And then there's things like, I found there were some records generated by the Poor Law. They used to do what they call settlement examinations to establish whether or not these people really were their responsibility rather than some other parish. And some of those are sort of standardized interviews, but you can pick up from a few of those other people that otherwise wouldn't be documented who worked at the flax mill, or their children are working at the flax mill when they're interviewed, and so on. So all sorts of little snippets which suddenly join together, and you've got just a picture of those people.
Before we get into the Darwin Festival, what we actually came here to do, Penny, you mentioned the word census, which you're working on at the moment. We've got a picture of you here. What are you working on for the 2021 census? What's your role in this?
Oh, well, I think basically, as I say, we use the census to give us a starting point. When we first started looking at the lives of the flax mill workers. So Marianne is planning to do some posts about that and the different uses you can apply to the census data that we've collected. So I've been sort of pulling it out of my database and turning it into different, highlighting those different aspects, which will duly roll out in due course, Marianne.
Oh, yeah. It was meant to be a tiny thing. I mean, the census only comes around every 10 years, and it's been so good for us to bring about the lives of the people who were working at the flax mill, who otherwise would have gone unknown. There's very little of them remaining, but at least we've got the names. And we've got the jobs, and we know where they lived, and we know when they died. So that's been fantastic. So when it came around, I thought, are people aware of how important it is to join in? Because it's your chance to be part of history. In 100 years' time, our descendants are going to be using it to form an idea of what the society looked like then. And hopefully this podcast will still be available. So, they'll get an idea. But we can't be sure, whereas those records will stay. So we got in touch with Roger Bellum, who was on the photograph, who's the Shropshire's Census Engagement Manager. And he said, this is exactly the sort of thing that we're looking for. We'd love to do a little partnership with you guys. So, yeah, we'll do a little social media campaign. And I said to Penny, can you just draw out some facts? And Penny being Penny, it became entire case histories, which is fantastic. Because that's exactly to make the point of, what sorts of jobs were there? Twisters, spielers, dyers, that sort of information. The fact that, about a third of the workforce was female, a third was male, and a third was children under 16. That sort of thing. It helps as well, because these are the sorts of stories that we tend to tell when you get an online talk from us. So if any group is interested, let us know, and we can do anything via Zoom. It's what we tell when we give guided tours as well. And it's also what Mather & Co. will be putting into that fantastic visitor experience that we are opening next year. So it's, the census is essential for that sort of thing. It made sense for us to join forces.
Amazing. And where does this all fit in? Where do you guys fit into the Darwin Festival? Obviously, the Darwin Festival is a celebration of all things Darwin, evolution, science, and our heritage, right? So I guess that's where it fits in. Answer me on question.
Well, I'm going to give a talk, which is about innovation and the lead figures. I mean, most of my research is about the ordinary people, but I'm going to focus for this about how innovative the flax mill was, and the figures involved with it, and I don't want to tell you too much, but to give it all away, a spoiler alert, yeah. But it will look at that, and of course there are some surprising, not so surprising links back to Darwin himself, which is not surprising given that he came from Shrewsbury, and there are links which will come out in the talk.
Yeah.
She's good, isn't it? Just a little teaser.
Yeah, a little teaser. And there's people watching now that probably have never, unfortunately, probably never even taken part in anything that's gone on the Darwin Festival, which is a shame for you. But you know what? This year is your best year to take advantage of what is going on around you, because it's all virtual this year, which means you can sit in your pajamas and rock up at one of these lectures, and Penny's talk is going to be amazing. You could sit there and have a glass of whiskey, whatever you want to do. I don't know, in your pajamas. You can dress up in a tuxedo if you like. You can do that. It's fine. But it's accessible across the whole world, and that's the most important thing. You can learn about history, you can learn about Darwin, you can learn about Shrewsbury's heritage by just. I'm going to share the site now with you. Go to Original Shrewsbury. .co.uk, and here's the site. Look, you go to Original Shrewsbury, click on Darwin, and all of the lectures and all of the talks that are taking part throughout the week are all here. And now it's very easy. You see how I'm going to click? That's Penny's there. I want to click on it, and you book a place. Done. And there you go. You've got a place to take part in one of these sessions. Amazing, easy, and very educational. Yeah.
And I have a question for you ladies, because if obviously these are they're timed sessions which people can book online, and obviously last year people could physically come along to events. For people that might be doing, say, shift work, or might happen to be out on a particular time when one of your talks is going on, is there an opportunity to get a recorded version afterwards?
As I understand it, it is being recorded and should be available later. But if not, as we said, if you're interested as a group to have a talk, just contact us, and we can do something a bit more general about the mill or about the social history. And it's a nice way of starting to get excited as well about the work that's going on. But no, as far as I'm aware, it will be recorded. If not, we might be able to record it ourselves at some point and make that available, because this is a completely new talk that Penny is putting together, especially for the festival. So it's quite a bit of it is new to many of our volunteers as well. So Penny will be giving the talk for our volunteers to share the knowledge that she's picked up.
Yeah. Amazing.
Fab.
Well, you guys are amazing. Penny, you're just an absolute pool of knowledge. I'd love to just sit and talk to you for hours if we could, talk about what you've learned, not just about the flax mill, but, why you do what you do, and why it's special to you, because I think you're fascinating. And Marianne, the good work that you guys have been doing at the flax mill, it's just astounding how you're restoring this beautiful building. The research alone must take just a ridiculous amounts of time, never mind the construction.
Well, it's good to be in partnership with Historic England. I think it's every charity's dream to be part of that sort of development, because you learn so much. I mean, Historic England does Technical Tuesdays, which some of our volunteers also watch. So they're picking up immense amounts. And of course, some of our volunteers are retired, but other volunteers, we've got a whole lot of young volunteers who are using this as a learning opportunity. And one of them has volunteered with us, has now found a job in Cornwall. Hi, Alexander. Well done. And we are working with younger volunteers now between 18 and 25 to see how, for instance, Heritage Open Days, which is in September, can be made more accessible, more interesting for that age group. So it's a catalyst, isn't it, this project? And to be backed up by Historic England with that expertise is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And Shrewsbury is very lucky to have that sort of investment. Historic England, it's not only one of the largest lottery projects in the country with over 20 million, but Historic England themselves have put in a lot of their own money, because the lottery never pays 100%. You understand? It's always a partial investment. So Historic England not only just put money but so much expertise in that. That's a reason why I think it's such a good learning opportunity for younger volunteers as well to be able to do that. I think just recently they had a fantastic webinar about climate change and how important it is to restore historic buildings, because this building could have been flattened 17 times over in the past 225 years. But the best way, the most climate positive way, is to do something with the buildings that are already there. And I don't know if you've seen the big town plan presentations. Alistair from Historic England made a fantastic comment there that it's got Georgian air conditioning. You open the windows on the cool side of the building and it blows through. That sort of thing. It's exemplary, the work that has been done, and it's up to us in Historic England to share that learning, both for contractors and developers, but also for people who are just interested and want to share that sense of pride. You've got the ancestor of the skyscraper on your doorstep. How bloody lucky are we?
Exactly.
Sorry, I'll stop.
That's fine. I love the passion. That was fantastic. And that's what this festival is all about as well, showing pride for your heritage. And we're lucky to have the Flaxmill, to have Charles Darwin, have this fantastic history and such a beautiful looking town. A town that we can look at a building and go back so many hundred years and find out so many different stories about. We're so lucky to have that around us. So I would love to encourage anybody that's watching, listening to this, to go to originalshrewsbury.co.uk, book a place onto any of the lectures that are going on from next week, and enjoy it. Enjoy what you're listening, because there's so much there to take part in. Now we're running out of time. We've got 3 minutes left. We did it. Before we get out of here, I would like to tell people about our website as well, because all of our audio is available on there. It's very easy to access everything we do at the Biscuit. If you go to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast.co.uk, that is powered by Web Orchard, our friends there, that will make you a great website if you need one. Thank you very much, Marianne. Thank you very much, Penny, for joining us today. It's been fantastic talking to you.
Yeah, as always.
I agree. Penny should have her own full 40 minutes.
I think Penny needs to come on the Biscuit just by herself. Penny, we're going to make this happen. Yes, I'll be in touch. Right, guys, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back in about 20 minutes. Right. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.